Okay. As always, starting nice and gently and giving yourself plenty of time to settle in, both in mind and body. Don't be in a hurry or impatient with this. Starting with our usual opening, just a little bit of a kind of self massage exercise. Rubbing your hands together so your fingers warm up a little bit, and then with the pads of your fingers, tapping over your face, quite light but rapid, and just noticing the sensations of the tapping, effect of the tapping. Start to work up over your head. I use the palms of my hands, so the front of your head to your neck. And the shoulder, maybe a bit stronger on the shoulder, just let the other arm hang down. Feel the muscles vibrating a little bit. And then go down the inside of your arm, up the outside. There's no special order here, this is just tends to be how I remember it. Then on the other shoulder, letting your arm hang down. And then the arm itself. Now with one hand or with both hands, just on however much of your back you're able to get to comfortably. Not too strong with this one, especially over the kidneys. And going around your hips. And your legs. Coming up once again quite light as you come to your belly. And then the upper part of your chest. So, standing comfortably, and for those of you with more experience, that might well be coming straight into the sort of official Tai Chi posture. But on the other hand, that can be quite strong and it can take you a while to kind of arrive there. So again, easy and patient with yourself. Bringing your attention to the middle part of your body and turning gently there. We're looking for a posture that allows for movement, that facilitates movement. So that's going to mean reducing tightness, and stiffness and blockage in our bodies, and that in its turn means that we need to give some serious thought to posture, how we're standing, how we're moving, and whether those things are actually contributing to the tightness or the stiffness, or whether they're steering us away from it. So the sort of official posture, if you like, the thing that we're aiming for is to have our weight a little bit forwards in our feet, and at the same time to allow our hips to just settle back. This brings our centre of gravity directly over our legs, and that means that our weight, the pull of gravity working through our body, brings us down into our legs and into our feet. If I'm too far back, too far forwards, or leaning over in some way, gravity will try to pull me over. Perhaps it won't do it deliberately, but that will be the effect of it. And my body will respond by tightening up because I don't want to fall over. So it's hard to release tightness, to release stiffness in the body. If you feel as though by doing that, you're actually going to somehow become very unstable. So we're looking for stability, physical stability in the posture. These can be quite small, subtle adjustments, but can have a very profound effect. So just allowing your knees to soften, very slight curve in your knees. May not seem like very much until you realise that what you've done is taken the burden of carrying at least some of the weight of your body off your knees. We don't want our knees to be weight bearing. But something's got to take over from that, and that would be tend to be the muscles, in particular your thigh muscles. And you're using them in a way that it's quite unusual. So if you're new to this particularly, one of the first things that we often notice is the legs are aching. Bear in mind, however much experience you have, that when those muscles get fatigued, the tendency will be for your knees to lock up again. So don't overlook the element of physical conditioning necessary to really develop these postures and to sustain them. Rest when you need to. There's nothing gained in getting to a point where your muscles aren't functioning anymore. If you feel you need to rest, then do so. You might want to sit down. You might just want to sort of shake your legs out a little bit every now and then. Turning in the middle of your body, hips and waist, actually has an effect all the way through your body. You can feel the movement going up into your ribs, into your shoulders, into your arms. This too requires a change in how we habitually stand and move. It also requires a change in the focus of our attention. Our attention is often very much gravitated towards our arms and our hands. They're useful things, of course. But in Tai Chi and Qigong, the arms will express what else is going on within the body. So we begin to shift our perspective a little bit to the centre of the body. So we literally become more centred. And because it's the centre part of the body that we want to feel is dropping towards the ground, this is really what we're looking for when we use the term rooting. The centre part to feel as though we're sitting on the floor, almost. Then we're also bringing our attention down to the ground. So terms like centred and grounding in Tai Chi and Qigong actually aren't metaphorical. They are felt experiences, embodied experiences. So when we turn in the centre of our body, we certainly feel the effect going up through our back, to our front of our body, and shoulders and arms. You may also feel a slight change in the feeling in your legs. Just be careful that in doing this, one of the things we want to avoid, again, I'll come a bit closer, so is this. See how my knees are twisting around? This is not good news for the knees. We want to try and keep the knees relatively still. There'll often be a little bit of movement, and that generally isn't a problem. But trying to keep the knees pointing forwards in the same direction as your toes. And these are good primary focuses for our attention. As we go through these opening movements, we're able to just maybe detect little changes of movement in our bodies, and at the same time bring about this all-important sense of just gathering our attention and bringing an awareness of our bodies, our whole body, not just one part of it, to the front of our attention. Just raising your arms a little. Sometimes it's easier to feel how your arms are moved by the centre of your body when they're in a fixed position like this. Gradually becoming more aware of the key pathways of connection. Hips to shoulders, shoulders to hands, for instance. And then letting your hands drop down. We want to have our feet directly below our hips so that our hips feel supported turn one foot out, take a shortish step forwards, but keep the width, don't bring that foot in. You can see the background between my legs. Now just gently moving your weight forwards and backwards. Don't go too far, don't overextend your knees. And feel how that relates to this turning in the centre of the body. So now we're beginning to take that sense of connection directly down into the ground, from feet to hips to shoulders to hands. And so we're beginning to move from the ground. And this is physically a much better way of moving than sort of trying to lead the movement from shoulders and arms. That can be a good way of building up momentum if you're in a hurry, but we're not in a hurry, we're doing Tai Chi. And then on the other side. So we gradually become familiar with the overall feel, the qualities that we associate with the postures and the movements. And with that gathered attention, we bring that intention to feel that to the foreground. So our minds play an active role in these processes. So feet are hip width apart. And there's just a little bit of variation in that. You want to feel supported by your legs. If your feet are too close together, you'll sort of wobble around a little bit. However, if you habitually do this, which many of us do, this can feel quite odd. So again, particularly new people, just be prepared for it to take a little while before you really begin to appreciate the value of these things. Don't force anything. And you're asking your body to stand and to move slightly differently. And that's going to have an effect on muscles, and there'll be little bits of discomfort build up, but you shouldn't be experiencing regular sharp pain. If that starts to happen, say in your knees, I'll suggest you rest for a little while. And as I said earlier, ideally you want your waist a little bit forwards. This is exaggerated. And then just let your hips drop back. So you notice how when I allow gravity to pull my hips down, again, this is exaggerated, so I'm going a little bit out of line, but you can see the effect of the power of this, and we'll find this in some of the exercises later as it levels off, is to bring my head and shoulders up. So we begin to build a posture that isn't in conflict with the pull of gravity, but actually uses gravity. Allowing gravity to draw my hips down has helped bring my head and shoulders up. Hips drop back a little bit more. Again, being careful of your knees. We'll reach a point where your legs just naturally push you back up. You come up to this top position, and there's a change, and once again, gravity pulls you down. So the first thing to notice here, first thing to try and cultivate, is that your weight, your centre of gravity, drops down towards the ground more and more, stays there, so that your body just expands out of that, rooting down. The lower your centre of gravity, the more stable you are. The more your weight drops down, the less weight the upper body has to carry, and the less strain there's going to be. But rooting down isn't simply this mechanical operation, important though that is. Already noted that our attention, our thoughts, our minds also begin to ground. So following the movement down really helps to build that process, and the sense of stillness, a sense of calmness in the mind, that itself enables a greater awareness of what's going on in our bodies. We also begin to find that the root is a source of movement, a source of energy. Your legs, as you sink down, are loaded like a set of springs, or as though you're on a trampoline, and then they release, and this pushes you up. So one of the principal movements, one of the principal energies that we find we work with in Tai Chi and Qigong comes from this cycle. So allowing gravity to work through your body, yielding to the pull of gravity, is one of the key intentions that we want to try and cultivate. And again, this is aided by good posture. So we begin to get this sense that three elements begin to work together. The mechanics of the movement, which can be very, very subtle, of course, the body. Awareness and intention. A gathering of the mind. And movement, energy, beginning to interact and harmonise with each other. Now bring your hands around as though you're cradling the ball. This time when you push up, that movement upwards, push your elbows out. Turn your hands over now as though they're resting on the ball. Drop your hips, let your arms follow. So this is the exercise rooting down. Body expanding and contracting. Just seeing if you can let your body settle into a nice, steady, easy-going rhythm that begins to resonate through all the movements in your body, whether that's movements like your breathing, circulation, expansion and contraction of muscles and soft tissue, or this more subtle sense that begins to build of a movement that runs through the whole of your body, not just one part or with one function, but what we might think of as a connecting movement, a connecting energy. So as we feel our legs expand and our feet push down, feel our hips being pushed up. That moves our shoulders and our arms. One of the ways that we guide our intention is through the use of imagery. And a very common image that we use is as though we're moving through water. We learn in Tai Chi and Qigong how responsive our bodies can become to different images. If it's the right image, if it doesn't work for you, if an image doesn't work for you, it's not the only way that we direct intention. I've already mentioned memory for those of you who are more experienced. There's simple awareness, an awareness of how your body is working, and an intention to maybe change little things. You might find, for instance, as you go down, there's a hip going out of line. Can you just bring about a gentle correction to that? You might notice as you push up, the shoulders are going up towards your ears. Can you just allow them to stay down? Maybe move the arms a little less. So there's many avenues for our intention to begin to influence our movement. Now this time, rotating your hands so your fingers point away from your body, and then your arms just being pushed out sideways. I'm not trying to lift my arms, they're being pushed out sideways, and they naturally swing up. And this is the exercise, the wild goose. So an additional image here might be of a bird in flight that offers some kind of quality for you. I sometimes think of waving a feather up and down in the air, which gives a similar feeling to that image of moving through water. But it's important not to let the imagery distract us. The images are there to help us cultivate the correct movements. That's the priority. And then letting your hands drop down and cross in front of your belly. Push up again, your elbows going out. But this time drawing your fingers around in a smooth circle. Don't stretch up. It's going as far as you can go without losing that developing spaciousness that allows for movement within your body. So for instance, don't stretch and tighten your chest or your belly or your upper back. And what you may find is that your breathing just naturally begins to harmonize with the pattern of the movement. This is called parting the clouds. One more time. Letting your arms drop down, feeling the weight of your arms hanging from the shoulders. And as you push up, focusing on one side. Again, your elbow leading, drawing your hand up. Rotate your hands though you're plucking something from a tree and pull down. Bring your attention to the middle of your body and then to the other side. Pushing up, expanding and contracting. This steady, regular rhythm. Not rushing from side to side. So one of the things that helps to just quieten our attention, which is one of the more difficult things in Tai Chi, it's just a growing sense of awareness of detail in the movement. And the detail to notice here is that from this position you can really feel that sense of dropping through the centre of your body, the rooting down. And again, those of you with more experience in Tai Chi, Qigong, your awareness of detail becomes more and more subtle, of course. This is Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Let's do one more on each side. And then just let your arms hang down. Feel the weight of your arms hanging from the shoulders. Stand up. Give your legs a shake. Going back to the imagery for a moment, and particularly for those of you with experience in Tai Chi, I think the imagery can be really helpful in Tai Chi. It can be a very lovely part of the experience. But I do feel increasingly that one of the sort of long-term aims would be to not have to use imagery, to actually forego this need for some kind of intermediary between what we think of as mind and what we think of as body. And I think the ultimate kind of, or one of the ultimate sort of goals would be that these three elements of body, mind and energy that I mentioned earlier aren't actually separate, that we're moving with a sense of a holistic whole, which doesn't need that kind of separation. There's nothing wrong with focusing on one aspect or another according to what's required, but in the end, we want to be able to bring all three together. For the next couple of movements, just staying in this slightly higher posture, trying to keep this sense of your hips dropping back and feeling in lower back, hips and buttocks, almost of them overhanging, like you're, I don't know, perched on a fence or something like that. So that there's this general sense that of allowing that downward movement and recognizing that hopefully you have collapsed on the floor, that downward movement produces an upward movement. Just like being in water and allowing yourself to drop into water and feeling the buoyancy of the water. So we still have that cycle of movement within the body. Bring your hands lightly touching the side of your centre, the inside of your arm. Again, focusing your attention to the middle of your body, feeling that sense of dropping there, and then your arms being pushed up, your back lengthening, so you're pressing your hands into a low ceiling. Your hands come down, and once again, for a moment, just lightly touching the side of your body, and then raising a little bit, pushing out and turning, so that you change the direction of movement of your arms, and once again, coming back to your centre. Turning in the other direction, and back, and then facing forwards and pushing out, and back, pushing in 4 directions, following a pattern of expansion. It's just a moment where you feel as though you're pressing up, followed by a contraction, and just a moment when your attention comes back to your centre and the ground, and then once again the expansion. Noticing how the centre of your body is so influential in how your arms move. You could almost imagine that central part of your body is the centre of the expansion, like there's a balloon or a ball there that expands, pressing down towards the ground, but also pushing your arms out, and then contracting, drawing your arms back in. Pushing in 4 directions. Again, just trying to let the movement settle, nice steady fluid movement, maybe with that image of moving through water. Although sometimes with this exercise I imagine that between my arms I'm stretching out a big elastic band and then allowing it to contract gently. And these images of a sort of what we might call a soft resistance help to just gently condition both our bodies physically, but also that sense of the movement becomes more connected, more resilient. So we don't lose the flow of the movement, and yet it starts to feel stronger. Maybe the difference between feeling a light breeze on your skin or water flowing over your skin. Let's do one more round of this. Letting your hands drop down, focusing again on one side of your body, pushing your arm away, drawing your fingers back a little. Letting your arms swing up and then straight down. So your arm just gently swings through a half circle. Moving as far as you're comfortable, but always remembering that one of the things we want to do is to leave a little bit of space for movement. This time, turning a little, and then changing sides. This is simply called circling palm. So some of the movements have very evocative names, others are much more descriptive. Quite often those evocative names are drawing on traditional Chinese culture. So they might not always have an immediate relevance to. Turning. Don't, as I said, labour after the imagery. Sometimes the meaning of the images just reveals itself over a period of time. Letting your hand drop down. Now, deliberately and gently push your hips back. Notice that that has the effect of tilting your upper body so your head and shoulders go forwards a little bit. And then once again, let gravity pull your hips down and draw you up upright. You don't have to go this far. I'm doing this so that hopefully you can see the mechanics of the movement, the angling of the pelvis. And lengthening, gentle lengthening through back and spine. And then factoring in a little drop down. Be careful of your knees. Let your hips drop back and push up. So again, feeling how the centre of your body has this huge influence on the whole of the body. This time your arms following the movement. This is called rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. Take your time and again go carefully. Move as far as you're comfortable. Although these postures allow for an opening, releasing of tightness in the body, it doesn't mean that they're not strong postures. So we should approach them carefully, especially if we're new, but also more experienced people don't take these movements for granted. I'll do one more of these. And then bring your hands palm down in front of your belly. Turn and then push your hips back, push your hands forward, swing across, let your hips drop down, turn back to the front. This is called polishing the table. Your arms move by this combination of horizontal and vertical movement in the centre of your body, not straining in your shoulders. Notice again, I'm exaggerating how my hips swing across and come back to the upright position. Turning the other way, pushing the hips back, round and back. Trying not to stiffen up in your back or your shoulders. And if you find that you are, make it a smaller movement. It isn't the case in Tai Chi that we always value bigger movements above smaller movements. One more in each direction. Shake out. So, one of the things that we can learn from Tai Chi is the value of small movements, the small changes in the body. There are often those parts of the body, those movements, those changes that we're more likely to be able to influence through our intentionality. And quite often we discover that those small changes in the body are like the building blocks of the bigger movements. So it's not always a case of moving as far as you can. Sometimes a smaller movement can actually guide you into to the bigger movements in a different way. Now, let's take a slightly wider stance. Doesn't have to be massive, you just want enough room to let your hips drop to just transfer your weight a little bit from side to side. You're going to about 60% of your weight in each leg, so it's not a massive movement. Go into your left foot, so mirror my movements and just turn a little bit. And turn in the direction that the left foot is turned out. Move your weight into your right foot and turn. Hands just resting by your hips so you can feel them being drawn around by the movement. Now come into your right foot, turn, and this time as you go into your left and turn, let that swing your left arm out and up to shoulder height. You want your left hand above the left foot. Bringing your weight back into your right and turn. That draws your hand across. Turn the hand palm in so that you feel as though you're holding the ball between your hands. Move your weight across. Turn and then do the same thing on the other side. Swinging the right arm out as you move the weight. The top hand, the left hand, presses down until it rests in front of the left hip. And then coming back. Take your time. Turn your hands in to hold the ball. This is the movement, parting the wild horse's mane. I mentioned earlier that a lot of the imagery is taken from traditional Chinese culture. Leading this class on the cusp of the year of the horse, the Lunar New Year, the Chinese New Year. It's not just in China that it's celebrated, of course. And various images can be associated with the horse. Maybe just thinking of the smoothness, the flow of the movement of the horse when it's running, the tail, the mane flying out behind. Think of your arms as being like that mane, like that tail, not having to create the movement. The movement comes from the ground, from the movement of your weight between your feet and the turning of your centre, and subtle patterns of change and subtle patterns of expansion and contraction in your upper body. So for instance, we may feel here an opening in the left side of our chest, followed by a contraction and an opening across our backs. So we begin to become more aware of the movement, both inner and outer. And we're able to bring a greater sense of intentionality to those movements, both inner and outer. Parting the wild horse's mane. And then just shake it out. So again, remember, however attractive the images are, they're there to bring those qualities into our bodies. We're trying to maintain a sense of presence here, to find the flow, the quietness, the calmness, all these these lovely aspects of the art, not by pretending that we're somewhere else or something else. We're not birds, we're not horses, but by actually beginning to have an intention to generate some of those qualities in our movements, in our bodies, in our lives. So from the hip width stance, again, turn one foot out, step forwards. To begin with, this is a roughly square stance, not too short, but not a huge stride. You may find, those of you who can sink down a bit more, that you can get a slightly longer stance, and once again, begin to just transfer your weight from one foot to another. Giving yourself a moment to settle as your weight lands in each leg will also help you to realize that there is this sense of compression in the leg. The legs are sometimes described as being like springs. Compress a spring, and what will happen is it will push back, it will expand. And what we want to happen now is not to be pushed up, but to have the intention to feel that movement, that energy, and to direct it into the other leg. So we begin to get this sense of moving from the ground once again, the weight transferring from one leg to another, without needing to strain, without needing to tighten in the upper part of the body. It's very common to find ourselves wanting to lean, to stiffen our shoulders, but to begin with, just allow your body to rest, your upper body to rest, as though you were sitting in a chair or something like that. When you begin to feel that, you can bring in an image like moving through water, a sense of soft resistance around you, and maybe just begin to see how that affects your upper body, because there are small changes going on there. And again, we build a very subtle awareness of these changes to enable us to bring that intentionality to the movements. At this point, you're not getting all your weight into one leg. Be something like 70% in the back leg, more like 60 in the front leg. But now go forward, push your back knee in so your heel comes up and your body shifts just a little bit. And then when you go back, you raise your front toes, and again your body shifts. So you're beginning to bring those qualities of rooting and alignment that we felt over two legs, over one leg. Just doing it in gentle, incremental stages. Be careful of your knees and recognize where, as you do this, areas of your body are beginning to tighten, beginning to stiffen. Maybe your hips, your knees, your back, your shoulders, maybe your arms. And just gradually beginning to ease that tightness so that you become more and more steady and rooted over one leg. And then bring the foot in, step out, push the front foot, you put your heel down first and the ball of the foot. You could have the foot slightly turned out here, that can help, but not too far. Move your weight forwards, push your back knee in, bring the foot in, step back. This time it's the ball of the foot that goes down, then the heel. And having placed the foot correctly, you then gently push in, we plant the foot. It's almost like you're walking on thin ice. And what you're doing is you're placing the foot on the ice and then gently testing it. What we don't want to do is something like this, to sort of fall forwards, because then we fall through the ice. So we're just building this ability to be a little bit more stable on one leg. Sometimes it can be helpful to have a little bit of support while you're doing this, because what we're trying to do is to release tightness. But if you do feel a bit wobbly, which we all do sometimes, actually it's quite a hard thing to do, isn't it? So again, this is gradually built. Now, have your other foot forwards. Again, check your stance and begin to transfer your weight. So this is a really key exercise. This begins to show us how we can take these principles of Tai Chi, the calmness, the quietness of the mind, the physical effects of the rooting down, the alignment of the body, and so on and so forth, into something very practical, like taking a step. It's also a really good exercise for conditioning your legs. Go nice and easy. If, say, you have a problem with your knees, don't go too far with this, don't push hard. Try and do the exercise regularly, and you'll find that over a period of time, it helps to condition muscles like the quadriceps at the front of your thighs that support your knee better. It's a good exercise to remember and to practice this one. Once again, beginning to raise your toes and your heel. Make sure you're not leaning backwards. Remember, the idea is to find an alignment over your leg. We quite often find that we're sort of leaning back or something like that. All of these little things take a while to correct because they're quite often quite long-term habits that we have developed over the years. So go nice and easy, be patient. Stepping in, making sure you step out to the correct position. And take your time. You may want to just put your toes down here to check your posture. I will sometimes do that. Sometimes I find that I'm okay not putting the toes down. It can vary where not machines or robots, all sorts of things can affect how we're moving and how we are. And then take a step through wherever you have the space, either forwards or backwards. Again, as though you're walking on thin ice, you plant the foot. Imagine walking through water. Change direction. Almost inevitably, we do lose our posture, our root, but we have this opportunity just here as we settle to correct that. Ideally, of course, we would never lose that posture, but in practice, we know that we do, just as we lose the calmness of the mind and so on. But Tai Chi offers us the opportunity to just restore these qualities on a regular basis so that they don't build up any momentum for us. For me, one of the great benefits that I take out of the practice into my daily life. Have your right foot forwards and starting with your weight in the back foot, arms down by your sides. Move your weight forwards, and as you settle forwards, let your arms swing through. Coming back, drawing your arms back, and again as you settle, they swing through. This is called fisherman castanet. So don't lead with the arms, don't move your arms forwards first. Most of the time they're trailing behind and then they just swing through. And again, you might want to use the image of moving through water. But you may also notice that, for instance, when we arrive at the front foot, this is exaggerated, there's an opening here in our chests that contracts, and that helps to bring the arms through. So paying attention to where we find those small changes, those patterns of expansion and contraction, those pathways of movements within the body. And bringing an intention to the use There's this fisherman cast a net, this lovely wave-like energy flowing through the body, feet to fingers. A steady flowing rhythm once again. Not trying to keep to a particular breathing pattern or method, but just noticing whether your breath has slipped into the rhythm in some way or another. You might not stay there, you might need to take an extra breath or something every now and then, that's fine. Now this time, let your hands come back in front of your hips, drop the heel of your palm down and then push forwards. This is called pushing wave. So slightly stronger, more focused, more compact feel to the movement. Don't overextend, and remember the push will come from your back leg. And you end up with your hands roughly over the front foot, not right out here. So part of the strength of the movement comes because we're using the whole body, not just our arms or our shoulders, to produce the movement. Again, we get this sense of our whole body. These three elements, really, of body, mind, movement or energy, working as one united, holistic whole. This time, when you arrive on the front foot, turn. So you, again, as we noted before, this changes the positioning of your arms. Coming back, letting your hands drop down, settle into your back foot and turn, swinging the arms out, expanding, contracting, expanding. This is called wind blows the willows. And that holistic quality, that sense of a harmony and a conditioning of mind, body and energy together is where we find one of the links between these arts and traditional Chinese medicine, with its sort of important aim of developing that harmony, that strength, that resilience. Shake out. Have your other foot forwards. So starting from the parallel stance, your left foot forwards, and once again, fisherman cast there. Once again, moving through water. It's one of the very common ways that in the solo movements we would build this quality, sometimes referred to as inner strength, but a better way of thinking of it for you might be to think in terms of inner resilience. When we think of strength, we often think of this muscle or that muscle or whatever. So maybe resilience is a more useful term for us to develop. One more time. And then pushing wave. You could think of the wave pushing your arms forwards. You could think of pushing into the wave if that suits you better. Sometimes we find by reimagining these things, we discover new aspects to the movement. But always remembering that it's in the service of the movement. Coming forwards, not hurrying, settling in and turning. Wind blows the willows, contracting, expanding. Remembering that the willow tree has these very deep roots that allows for the supple wood and smoothness, so not forgetting to root down. We combine this with the step in, so again either forwards or backwards. I'm going to go forwards, I'll push my back knee in as I turn, I'll bring my foot in. This is dragonfly skims the water, hips dropping back here. Step through, plant the foot. Same thing, just give yourself a moment to check your posture. And what you may find is that having done that, you can bring your foot in and just raise up gently. If you find that that really throws the flow of the movement, then I would suggest, to begin with at least, don't raise your foot. Especially if you're new to this. Remember the basic exercises, work on those, and you'll be able to build into this. I'm going to have to take a step back now, of course. Then bringing the foot in, not hurrying. And then bring the feet back. If that's the movement you would like to develop again, use some support. Now, this is quite a tricky movement to do, and we may find ourselves twisting over and things like that. Having your hand on the table or wall or something like that gives you a chance to really build this and think, well, what am I doing here? How can I bring about a sense of change? So again, build it up slowly and gently. Don't use main strength. Don't come to here and think, well, I'm going to grip and hold on, because that would take you in the wrong direction. Okay, so coming back to the parallel stance, I mentioned a couple of times this idea of coming back. We do lose all of these qualities of, well, I do anyway, Tai Chi, the root, the physical alignment, the sense of energy, the calmness, the stillness, the ability to navigate difficult movements. All these things seem to come and go. But what we can learn is how to come back. And I think this is a really valuable lesson. And this last exercise, it's called Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain. We can think of the mountain as a symbol for all these qualities if that works for us. But the important thing is, how do we come back? So just sinking down, push up, your arms coming out again. This time they come around as though they're going to hold a ball against your chest. Drawing in, turn your hands palm down, starting with your hips, sinking down, coming back to the mountain. And it can be a useful exercise just to give yourself time to feel what it is that actually brings you back. One or two little things, simple things, that later in the day, later in the week, when you're feeling frustrated, when life seems to be getting on top of you, or when maybe just feeling a bit unsteady on your feet, what would be most useful for you to remember at that point? What would be most helpful to you? Something I've said, something you felt. It doesn't have to be anything special, it just has to be useful to you. One more time. And stand. Thank you very much, everybody. And as always, please do feel free to get in touch with any questions or comments. But bye for now.